Hello all, welcome home. It is SuperMex Nation and it is Monday. So a wrap in off the weekend and news of the day into the week. You know what wrap in is. We're trying to get you prepared for the week and the news to come. So it's about news that was done, but news that's coming. So on air correction and always make it legit. So I don't know what I was thinking, but last week I thought I was saying that we were going into the presidential debate on the Democratic side on the Wednesday, Thursday of last week. I don't know what I was thinking. A slip of the set there, but it's this week. Okay, so I was getting a little ahead of myself. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but getting a little ahead of myself. Today is the Monday prior to the Wednesday and Thursday. So tonight's show is going to be not necessarily just about the Democratic presidential debate this coming Wednesday and Thursday over 2 nights, but we're going to be taking a look at portions of the field and some of the things that that have struck me over the weekend and into the week that had legs off the week last week into the weekend and even now, and quite literally. And I'll give you the lesson plan summary up front. It's the black vote and the African American vote in the Democratic presidential race, in multiple primaries and throughout the country. We do need to discuss that. And so we're well armed and equipped today. I've got my homeboy, Brother Crow, or excuse me, not Brother Crow, Brother Miller. Brother Crow's not black. Brother African American is Darren Miller, not Brother Crow. My mistake. I'm slipping tonight. Anyway, but when you're slipping, you know you're straight slipping. So we've got that, and we're going to take a look at how that's going to affect the Democratic primaries and the different states, because obviously some states have different makeups in terms of ethnicity and different makeups in terms of their ethnicity, geography, income level, education level. There's a lot to sort through and unpack. We're not going to do all of that, not tonight, but we're definitely going to talk about, because I'm telling you, there's some things that struck me off the weekend that I think are going to be an issue, I think right even into the debate. So real quick, before we get started with Brother Miller here, I got to give you, SuperMex Nation, the music, our Tag That Track set from Friday night, and it was a fun one. I'm going to lose my 2 compadres from the Friday. So my son's back in location, back in school at Harvard, and Brother Swain Bo's got 2 weeks out. He's a teacher on vacation. He's got no class. You love that. He's a teacher on vacation. He's got no class. So Swain Bo's going to be out for a couple weeks on the Fridays, and I'm gonna make my effort, and hopefully some of those ladies are watching tonight, or maybe we'll see this, but there are some ladies that I've recently met and spent some time with that I think will add some flavor, and definitely the estrogen level will increase and be different and add some different look and perspective to the show. And I'm going to have to try to get them in by this coming Friday. 1, 2, maybe if not a full panel of ladies. And we're going to talk not just about politics, but social and cultural and other things, and how this life is affected by women and how women view things that I might view totally, entirely different. So that's going to be coming up. And hopefully by Friday, you will see a show, a SuperMex Nation show. Obviously this Friday won't be about education. That's Swain Bo. But we'll be talking about issues from a female perspective, not just my own, because I do want that flavor and I want that diversity and difference in opinion, if not view. I want that. So that's coming. I'm real happy about that. That's coming probably by the end of this week into next week. In the end of this week into the following. So here you go. Here were the songs. And Brother Swain Bo had some damn good songs. He picked me out, a little slob, because he did one that I was probably thinking about, but he got to it first. So Boys of Summer by Don Henley. Great song. And if you guys remember from the Friday, if you weren't here, then I'll tell you what it was. It's basically we're into summer, so we're summer songs, summer theme songs. All about the summer. And then he went kind of sidebar, he went Rock Lobster with the B-52s. I was like, what the hell? I didn't see that one coming, but it's a good song. And it's, it is to that person what summer is in terms of a song. So, it's going to be different for everybody. There might be some commonality, but there might be some differences as well. And this is quite literally the beauty of like what we do on our show. We generally have things that we want to get to, like an overarching theme or purpose for the show, but we leave some of these things entirely unscripted So what I get from the guest and the host, the co-host, is entirely real and not made up or contrived, and definitely not made to be camera ready, or in our case in particular, politically correct. It's about what they're thinking on the spot. So B-52s, Rock Lobster, and then the Motels, Suddenly Last Summer. Great song. All right, so my boy did, Wikas Martinez, he did 3 songs. He did Sweet Home Alabama, but by Kid Rock. He said that's a cool country summer song for him. So Sweet Home Alabama by Kid Rock, and that's a damn good tune. Okay, Nice for What by Drake. He would know that, I would not. That's for my younger set, Guillermo and some of the others. Surfing USA by the Beach Boys. He went from Drake to the Beach Boys. Go figure. There's a continuum of music, right? Okay, so Suddenly Last Summer, The Motel, Sweet Home Alabama, Kid Rock, Nice for What, Drake, Surfing USA, The Beach Boys. Summer songs. And then SuperMex's summer songs were, I did Summer of '69 by Bryan Adams. Love that song. Love that song. I did Pontoon by Little Big Town. A little more current and country. And I think I'm missing one here, but I think the other summer song country was Chattahoochee, On the Chattahoochee by Alan Jackson. Those are my summer songs. Because when I think of summer and I see a big old lake, I see people jumping off the back of a pontoon, and I see people like skidding around on their little boards, like on Chattahoochee, skiing, stuff like that. So those are my summer songs. Those are the guys, the 3 of us, and it was all songs of the summer as we interpreted what summer meant, right? So those are the Tag That Track songs from this past Friday. We'll have another set, and I'm going to make it real interesting, because if we have more ladies on the set on the Friday, then I'm going to get kind of creative and tinker with the theme, and then let those ladies choose some songs as well, so that we have a mix in a quite literally a motley crew of different views and opinions, because we'll have different looking ladies, age-wise, ethnicity, and backgrounds. And that's quite literally why we do what we do on SuperMex Nation. Okay, so there you go. There's meat and potatoes from last week going into this week. So tonight, I think I did the B thing for the obvious reason, right? So we're going to talk about Biden and Booker, and we're going to talk about Buttigieg. And then we're going to talk about what that means going into the Democratic presidential debates this time on Wednesday and Thursday. So Brother Miller's with me tonight. And, and again, quite apropos for the obvious reasons, I want to talk about the black vote. I think those were the B's I was thinking. The black vote, Biden, Booker, and Buttigieg. And that's what I want to talk about tonight, because...
The 3 B's, huh?
Exactly. 4 B's if you want to count the black vote.
My 4 B's, all right?
All right, give me one.
I'm big, black, bald. That's somebody said I'm beautiful.
I'm big, black, and bald?
And beautiful.
And beautiful. There's 4 B's. That's 4. That's 4 B's. So, I mean, for the simple reason, obviously, and then I think what I was telling Brother Miller right before we got on air is that, and I do want to contrast this by the end of the night. This is SuperMex Nation. And so the crazy thing is that there is a clear distinction, and we were about to get into that right before we got on set. The good thing about Brother Miller and I is we can have a good conversation at any time about anything, whether it's on air or off. There's nothing left undone here. But we were talking about, it's like it's going to be the female black vote, and how consistent and stable it is, in the Democratic Party. And I think not only, for the obvious reason, is it going to have impact on the Democratic presidential primary, but it's definitely going to have an impact on the presidential race in general. So what do you know, or what's your take on what the black female vote is?
The black female vote is something that politicians can count on. They vote heavily. When I say heavily, 80+% Democratic,
okay,
on the Democratic side of the ledger. So that's one of the reasons why the Democratic Party, I believe, has paid so much attention to the African Americans.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily African Americans in the whole, because African American men
don't vote in the same, because that's what I was going to ask you. So they don't vote in the same number.
Oh, no, not even
And
close.
I'm going to say that subgroup, African American women, they vote better on number than an African American male.
Yes, about 8 out of every 10 African American female that's eligible to vote will vote, and it's about 5 out of every 10, actually probably even lower than that. 4 or 5 out of 10 African American males will vote.
I know that's better than the Hispanic vote too. And that's what I'm saying.
And
So in terms of a subgroup, in terms of a subgroup, go ahead.
I mean, when you look at any of the trends, the most reliable, for the Democratic Party, the most reliable voting demographic is African American women.
Right.
And I think when you start talking about some of the issues that Biden has had with some of his comments and some of the things that Buttigieg is getting, that's where they're going to have to concentrate. And I think that both of them are going to take some hits over the controversies that are going on this week for different reasons. I think Biden got himself in a pickle by trying to be too cute and trying to make himself relatable. But unfortunately, he tried to make himself relatable to moderate Republicans, and I think that's going to come back to bite him. He didn't need to make an analogy.
He went too far. That's kind of where I was. At some point I was listening. I was like, just stop.
Right.
Just stop.
Right.
It's done. You don't need to go any further. And every time you open your mouth a little bit more, it's going to get worse. A sidebar, and a good one though. You're going to laugh about this, and I'm going to put it on air. But I have always, and here's the subject. Me personally, I've always had good relationships, or I've always felt anyway that my relationships are good, or I've felt good reception from older black women. Personally, me. Older black women. I don't know why or what, I don't know. It's obviously not just the minority thing, but I'm not a black man. But I've had some tell me that I'm respectful, that I do have a humble bone in my body, that I'm not weak, at least in terms of who I am, appearance or character. I've always had, you could ask my wife, we joke about it a lot. Black ladies love me. And, I guess, she was saying because it's not like they don't think I'm trying to, and that's why I'm bringing it up, is that I'm not trying to pretend or trying to be or trying to relate to you. Yeah. This is who I am. Lady, I have nothing but love for you, but if you don't like me, then, we'll find you somebody else.
So if I can use my mom as the litmus test in this.
By all means.
She's 77 now, 76, 77, and that's her. It doesn't take her but that long to make an assessment of you as to whether or not you're trustworthy, whether or not you're someone that she wants to have.
They'll look right at you.
Yeah, it could be
in some cases, they'll look right through you.
It could be, that's one thing about older African-American women is that they have their own test. And everything they're doing is based on their experiences. And if they've had negative experiences because of the way your tone, talking down to them or at them.
Correct. A lot of that.
They assess whether or not that you are truly wanting to have a relationship with them. Not a relationship as in, boyfriend, girlfriend, but a relationship as in professional.
No, exactly. Lying, BSing, playing games.
Or are you trying to use me for something? Are you trying to use me to improve your business? Are you trying to improve me? Yeah. And they'll read you very, 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 very quickly. I
do. That's funny you say, because I do. The times that so walk-in precincts, right? You and I both know what walk-in precincts are. I do remember distinctly an older black lady in my area that I was walking precincts to. She goes, "What you here for, young man?" And I was like, "Ma'am, I'm here to," and the first thing she goes, "Well, I appreciate you calling me ma'am." Right. And she goes, "So what you want?" Right. Exactly. It was that simple.
Yeah, get to the point.
I was like, "Well, ma'am, I'm here because I'm running for and I laid out. I told her, this is what I want to do. I'm not going to talk all day, but these are the things I believe.
And the next question was probably, well, what are you going to do or how are you going to do that?
Yeah. She wanted some particulars, and I said, so for this program, whatever. And it was like a handful of minutes. We started talking, and then it ended up being about social things. The area we live in. Started asking me about, exactly. Started asking me about curbs that we don't have in our neighborhood, stuff like that. Before you know it, I had a good conversation, but she said, you got my support. That was easy. I knew that. She said the first minute, because she felt that I didn't lie to her, I didn't play games with her, and I told her what I wanted. And then I was out the door. Right. That's simple. But so on the political end, what do politicians get the rap for? They're playing games.
Time. Yeah, they don't want to spend the time. They don't want to invest the time to have a true conversation. One of the things
and be straight.
One of the things is here in our African American community here in Fresno, we don't have a huge. There's not very many of our organizations that have 100, 150 members. Most of our organizations now are small groups.
Shameless plug.
20,
go ahead. What are the groups 25. We got?
I mean,
yours?
BAPAC. We've got 30.
Give them the acronym.
Black American Political Association, California.
So that's BAPAC.
Right. We've got about, I think it's like 38 or 39. BWAPA, Black Women Organized for Political Action. They have about the same amount. Okay. There's a core group. But when you start talking to people about, hey, we need you to come, I want you to come and speak to our membership, well, how many people? Doesn't make a difference. I mean, doesn't really.
I don't do that.
But that's what I mean. When you say politicians, that's where that is. How many people are going to be there?
I don't like that. You know why? Because I'm sure you've been
right.
on that end too, right? Where somebody asks you a question like, well, how many people? I don't give a damn. I think you need to be here.
The flip side with me, and when I'm doing this stuff, is I get questioned all the time by other politicians, well, why did you go there? There was only 10 people there. Why did you go there? Because I need to invest. If I'm going to be about my community, I got to find ways to invest. Hopefully that 10, then we'll spring into 20, we'll spring into 40. You know, I believe in that grassroots mentality. But if I don't invest 30, 40, 50, an hour of time of having a conversation with those 10 people, then those are 10 votes I can basically not count on.
Right.
And so other people, they want to do things in mass. And usually
I don't think I ever asked you like how many you're going to have at your BayPAC meeting when you asked me. I never asked you. You asked me to go to the BayPAC meeting.
If you did, I don't remember. No, you came though. Regardless, even if I answered, if I told you what the number was, you came. And we've had some other politicians, some other people who have been invited to come. But there are some people who are running for prominent positions who just, the response is, yeah, we'll get together. And then when you start to nail them down, it's just
I'm just saying, like, and I'm a shameless plug on my own end. I know I never asked you how many were going to be there. You asked me if I would go. You told, matter of fact, I know exactly what I asked you. Remember I told you about my memory. I'll run the conversation back. I'll run our conversation.
I'm not going to remember.
Okay.
I can tell you that now.
That was a couple, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
I'm over 50 now, man. So I have my.
Well, I'm creeping up on you.
Over 50.
So here's the thing. So I know that I never asked you how many were in your membership. I asked you what the membership was trying to do, what it was about. And then you told me, and I'm like, damn, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
and,
we're about information. So
yeah.
Although we're small in numbers, we have an influence. We have a sphere of influence, and that's what BayPAC, our particular organization, me as the chair, that's what I've tried to do. Is although we don't have hundreds and hundreds of people that are our members, we have the influence over hundreds of people. And we're setting up right now. We're going to do some community forums around the mayoral race. CD22, Congress 16, CASA's seat. There's some other seats that are coming up.
Let's do this on there. Do that, and I want to kind of do this.
Okay. But what we're doing is, and this is one of the other things.
You and I can interview some of these mugs on the spot.
We can, but the other part of it that's more important to me than you and I interview them is making sure that we get those people who want to go to those, to aspire to be in those positions or stay in those positions, to make sure that we set up an avenue and a venue for people in the community to hear them.
Right.
And so this, I'm envisioning that this is going to be probably 15 or 20 cross-gender, cross-ethnicity, cross-ideology organizations coming together to set up this series of forums. And we're working on some concepts about how to get it done to make sure that the community is part of it, because that's one of the things that has to happen. Especially in the African American community, when you start talking about leadership and organizations in my community, you go to Dr. King, you go to Malcolm X, you go to individuals, rather than talking about organizations. And I think that's one of the downsides that's happened in the African American community, is that we have always been ascribed to a strong leader.
Correct.
Not necessarily a strong organization with a strong value system and a strong outreach program and those things. And so that's what I want to also do. I'm a pretty bold voice and those type of things, but I also don't want this to be about Darren Miller. Yeah, I want to be part of it. I want to help engage and inform, but also I want to be able to use my influence.
Because somebody needs to initiate.
Initiate and cross, but I don't want to be, sometimes I go in rooms and, well, Darren, what are we going to do? And my response back is, okay, yeah, what are we going to do? Let's create it, and then I'll use my abilities to be able to help get it going, but I don't want this to be impending upon Darren Miller helping or Darren Miller setting the vision and direction of what we're going to get done. That's destructive. We've been there, done that.
It's not good long term.
It's not. You can't sustain yourself, because as much as I think I'm going to live forever, good Lord has got a spot for me.
You never know.
You gotta. I do know. At some point in time, I'm not going to be here. Correct. I don't know when that is.
No, that's what I'm saying. So it could happen anytime. My pop died at 30. Did I plan on that? Hell no.
Right.
I didn't know that was going to happen. I don't know if I'll walk out here and I'll get struck by a bolt. You don't know. Right. So you do as much as you can with what you've got.
And hopefully you'll be able to influence somebody who's come along with you, so that whenever God does call you home, then there's somebody else to fit in. And it's not about the individual person. School systems. Our school systems right now, I think that's one of the demise that we have with a lot of our educational systems right now. We've been building these models on strong principals, strong superintendents. It's not based on having a strong model that you can plug in the administrative pieces to keep the vehicle going forward.
Correct.
And we've got to change that. We've got to get out of this strong, authoritarian type of system and structure that doesn't benefit us.
I agree. I'll throw you for a curve. In the Mexican community, we don't even have that.
You have had that, though. Cesar Chavez.
But that's it. That's kind of it. And that was a long time ago. And even that was like, we have that because we don't have much else. And I'm not dismissing what he did. He did something of significance. My point, though, is that we don't have a lot. In terms of organizations,
that's true.
I've had a Mexican guy tell me that he feels the NAACP has done more for the Mexican community than any other Mexican group has done for the Mexican community.
Well, you know what the acronym is, right?
I know.
The
Colored
National
Peoples.
Association for the Advancement of Colored
Peoples. So, but most people get generically believe that it's for black people.
Right. And at one point in time, colored, the word colored was associated with African Americans.
Correct.
And some people make that connection. And if you do, that's fine. But it's about colored people. And I see that of people of color. And so, and it was founded, the NAACP's founders were heavily Jewish. There was a lot of Jewish influence that went into the creation of that organization. And
back to my point, though, is that there isn't a whole lot. You know, I'm not saying nothing. I stopped at that word, obviously, but there isn't anything of, I mean, the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund, there are some, I guess, but not that have the immediacy of recognition within, say, the Mexican American community, the way there is within the black community. You guys can think of someone or something. You get my point?
But I think that part of that, though, is also that those leaders have been ascribed to us.
You're correct, but my point is you have something.
Right.
You got something.
Hey, I don't know if you, hopefully you got my Facebook post for about Juneteenth. Remember Juneteenth happened a couple weeks ago, we were talking about that. I wish I remember the details. I would have thought about it and brought it with me. But there is this city in Mexico that celebrates Juneteenth. And everybody that's there is darker than I am, all speak Spanish, but they're bilingual, English and Spanish. And the history of it is that there were escaped slaves that took off out of Texas, took off out of Florida, out of the southern states,
they set up a separate little community. I know
and
a little
they
bit
set
about
up
that.
a city in Mexico because Mexico did not have slavery. They had abolished slavery.
Right.
And so they
before us.
They still, way before us. But I should say, before us. But this community, and it's something. It's Nacimiento de Negros. Would that be birth of the blacks?
Birth of the black community.
Okay, so that's what it is. Nacimiento de
That's
Negros.
the name of the city?
That's I don't know if it's a city. It doesn't look like it's a city. It's more like a town or an area.
Okay.
Nacimiento de Negros. And so these people
That's not bad.
Yeah, I tell you, me Espanol is...
You're around a lot of Hispanics.
Poquito.
You're around a lot of Hispanics, man.
But so they make a pilgrimage every year, June 19th, which is the actual day of Juneteenth. They go and they have this celebration there. And I would love at some point in time to be able to go down there. There's also...
That'd be a trip.
I saw an article, had an article forwarded to me that talks about the Califas. That doesn't ring a bell?
Kind of, but within
That's
what?
California is
I know.
named after Khalifa.
Right.
Well, Khalifas were supposedly darker skinned inhabitants of California in the 1500s, before Columbus sailed over here. And I haven't had a chance to read the article. I just kind of glanced at it. But all of these, you remember my joke last week when I found out what my origins are, my Spanish and Portuguese origins. We're all connected.
One way or the other.
One way or the other, we are all connected.
I
think that the more we try to isolate ourselves and stay inside of our segregated areas, it's to our detriment.
It is.
And
we're kind of there now. Like I said, you know how I feel about it. I think we need to start actively. Listen, that's kind of the genesis of our show in this format, was to find more common ground with each other than the separation and the distinctions that we have with each other.
If we take that back to politics, this is the part that really tickles me.
Well, that's what it is, politics, right?
But the part that really tickles
politics
me
is what separates us.
Is the millennials. The millennials was the highest percentage, or is the largest number of voting bloc now. just passed the baby boomers.
I know.
Recently.
I know.
They surpassed, as far as their rate of eligible voters, they did well in the 2018 elections in the midterms.
Yep.
Gen X did well.
And they're only going to increase. So here's the rule of thumb there, because we're moving in and we're going to get back. We're going to get to our topic main. But Gen X is like at a point where, are you baby boom by definition?
No, I miss baby boom. I'm Gen X.
You're Gen X, but you're by 1 year then.
Yeah, I'm like 1 or 2 years.
Have you gone into the page? Because I have the years broken down.
I thought it was like 63 or 64.
It sounds like it. So go into the SuperMex Nation page.
Okay.
And it'll break down the years.
I just missed it.
Okay, so you're one.
I'm at the top end of Gen X.
It's loose. Look, and if you're like within 6 months of whatever the year is, people can. Who do you identify with more? But my point is this: Gen X, Generation X, is now beginning to or going to fill more of the leadership positions, and politically, by the way.
I'm not sure about that, man.
Well, because the baby boom generation is getting older.
Or if they do, it's going to be very brief. I really do believe that the millennials, with people such as
well, because millennials are a larger group, and so far, and my son was kind of educating me on this because they talk about it where he's at, you know, Harvard, right? Intellectual incubator. What comes out of there usually is what ends up happening going out. So he was telling me that these generational distinctions or identifications may become more fluid and much shorter and briefer, but more impacted. So he goes, Dad, they're generally saying everybody younger than you at this time, like in their 30s and below or whatever, are millennial, not Generation X. And he goes, but there's another one right behind us, and they're becoming a harder line.
They're just getting the next one that's coming through is just getting to be voting age.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken, they're 18, 19.
Well, my point is that they're subgrouping even millennials now. They're subgrouping millennials.
I got you.
They're like, they don't want to all be termed as millennial because that was something we gave them. They're wanting to identify themselves, which is understandable.
The millennials do not identify social groups. They do not identify ideological groups like we did.
No, they're way more in flux.
They are way more.
And I'm going to tell you what, I think, you know, and I've said this on air, we haven't done that show, you and I, but I've done that where, you know, stand alone. I've told people, and I've called our audience out, and I've told them flat out, you better start paying attention to these kids because unlike baby boomers, unlike even Gen X, say you and I, they are aware of the problems. We weren't aware.
And they don't care.
Look, here's the thing. Here's the big difference. We had an idea like there's an American dream, right? But we didn't know what the problems were. They know what the problems are, but they question the American dream.
Well, one of the other things I would add on to that, though,
I say dream, by the way, dream.
Is our Generation X and prior, anytime there was an issue, we always wanted to ascribe a race or an ethnicity to it also.
They don't do that as much.
We always want to make a connectivity back to some identifier.
We want some relevance. We want to understand it. But
this new generation does not identify issues the same way we do.
I'm saying it again. So when I said on that show, they're different. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't, because we don't know whether it's going to be right or wrong. But I'm gonna level some optimism. This is how I went about that particular show. So I'm going to level some optimism with them. And I'm saying, I'm tired of hearing how millennials are this and millennials are bad and millennials are, you know what? That's our damn fault if they're bad, because we're not educating them and we're not teaching them what the American dream is, what it could be, what is not right, what is whatever. My point was that they are uniquely aware of what our problems are, whereas prior generations didn't know what our problems were. The baby boom generation grew up with the belief in the American dream.
Correct.
We grew up with the belief in the American dream and Generation
because
X.
We witnessed it with our parents.
Okay, they don't see it.
Right.
Because all they see is we have the largest debt that we've ever had. They see a climate, and whether you believe it or not, I don't give a damn anymore, but the climate is different and it's changing and it could be bad for them. I heard the vice president went on air yesterday and said, we have the best air quality in the world. And I'm saying, homeboy, come and hang out in Central Valley. I'm serious. I'm being deadly serious.
When you start talking
I'm going to give you a second there. Hold your thought. The vice president of the United States went on air and said that the United States, we live in a country with the best air quality on the planet. And I'm looking at him, I was like, you don't live where I live.
Right.
You don't go for a run. And
he's from Indiana, right?
He's from Indiana. Yeah. Okay, but my point is he's clearly clueless. If he lived in Central California, and for those of you guys that live outside of
or a major city.
Yeah, that's why I'm halting you a second. But those of you guys that are my audience and you live in other parts of the country, maybe in better air quality places, Central California, and for those of you guys that are on my air right now, you can put a hell yeah. If you live in Central California, the air quality here is not good. It's one of the worst in the country. It's not good.
200-mile stretch of poor air quality.
It is bad.
From Bakersfield all the way up to Stockton.
I don't know about you, but when I lived in Germany for a while,
Well, I've never
in
lived,
the Army.
I've never lived.
So I lived in Germany for a
Utah.
while, and I came back. This is no joke. I remember going for runs, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
what the hell? I could feel the difference in clean air and in our air here in Central California. It totally freaked me out. But I heard that on air last night. What were you going to say? Then we got to get to this.
No. I got to it about when you start talking about poor air quality here in the Central Valley. It's 200 miles.
That freeze?
It did, but 200 miles of serious air concerns that are here. So much so, I go back to making my relationship back to the school system. You know, we've got those flags now, and that's not universal. That's something that is done here in this particular area because of how bad. And when you magnify our air quality with the heat index, then it even makes it even worse. And so one thing that has happened here in the Valley, though, I don't know if you've noticed here recently, is that the weather is not as hot. Have you noticed that?
Climate change.
But people always talk about global warming.
No,
when they say global warming, they think that everything is heating up.
Right.
It seems to be kind of...
Now, here's what I was going to say. The summers, and I'm, if we did like a number, right, or somebody did a study, the numbers and the heat, it looks like it's shorter and more impacted. But I mean, think about it. We were in May and it was cool.
It was raining. Remember, it was
weird.
The wettest May that we've
summer,
had.
my point is that summer is going deeper into October, November, because it's been hot in November. That never was the case. When I used to go to school, it was foggy day schedule all through October, November. There ain't no fog here anymore. Not like that anyway.
Yeah.
And it's hotter. You're right. Okay, so we've digressed a bit, but let's get down to this business because we're setting you up. You're a bad guy. You're bad news bear. Okay, so all this setup and this talk of race relations, background, racial organizations, racial leaders, ethnicities, etc. They go to what the topic today. So the Democratic debates are on Wednesday, Thursday. I'll probably watch. So let's do this before we begin. So there is a new applicant on the jobs list.
Number 25.
Number 25 just got in yesterday, and I know it's almost funny, but I'm serious about it. 25. What I will say is this: that of the 25 candidates, you have a hell of a list of ideas and policies and discussion and debate. So some of you guys can make fun of that because there's so many, but damn if there ain't some good ideas being tossed about. Or at the very least, they're bringing up issues that need to be talked about. Whether you're for the issue or not, whether you're with one policy or not, whether you're a Bernie guy or a Buttigieg guy or a Booker or a Beto or Biden or
all the
if you're a whether you're one of those or not, you have a smorgasbord of ideas and policies to choose from. And I don't know about you, but my old line is, I'd rather know than not know. I'd rather know than not know. My point being is, don't give me one thing that's the end all for everything. I don't like that. To me, that's un-American. I don't know about you, but that's un-American to me. I want choice. I want some choices. I want some good stuff. I want to be able to pick who I want. I want to be able to cherry pick their ideas and philosophies and maybe come up with the ideal. So here we go. So the point being is that the newest one in is Admiral, I think it was retired Rear Admiral Joe C. Stack on the Democratic side. He is a highly ranked retired Rear Admiral, naval officer and commander. And I'm interested. I've heard the name before. I knew a little bit about him. I don't know a lot, but I'm sure we'll get to know more. I'm wondering, like, why are you getting in so late, homeboy? But, generally speaking, if you've got a want or a wish to do this or want to be president of the United States, or if you think you can do a better job, then you run for the presidency, right? But I'm interested here's why I'm really interested. I'm really interested to get his take on foreign policy. Okay, not just Iran, but our joke of a foreign policy with North Korea. Okay, our inability to deal with Russia on an equitable level. Our forgetfulness when it comes to Venezuela and how we backed one and now we've got egg on our face.
Right.
You see, I'm being really critical. I will be critical, on that end. It's not just the president, obviously it's the administration. I will give credit where it is due on the domestic end in terms of economy. But when it comes to foreign policy, I've been waiting to say this for a while because I don't make a statement, and you know this, unless I'm 100% with it and I feel it's there. Our foreign policy right now is a joke. That's where I'm at.
So even though our domestic, the economy, the economy domestically seems to be going well, and we've got some other things that are going well.
And so you're with me. Like I give credit where it's due.
The city of Fresno's unemployment rate is as low as it's been.
Has it?
Oh yeah, it's dropped down to six point. I don't remember what it was. One of the city council people sent it out, but it's as low as it's been.
So who's taking credit for it?
But when you take a look, it's not a matter of credit. But when you start taking,
but you do know that some politicians are going to take credit for it.
But here's my point with this is though you talked about how our foreign policies is a train wreck. We have some.
I will say that
we have some domestic policies.
I'll have some argument. Let me stop for a second. I'll have some argument, and if you're a Republican, not conservative, watch how I do this. There are conservatives that agree with me. If you're really, really right, you agree with me that our foreign policy is a train wreck. If you're just Republican and it's just about party, and look at my line. What does that line say? People and principle before politics, country before party or politician. Okay? I really do believe that. I'm 100% clean because that's my wheelhouse, is foreign policy in other countries. I don't feel that our foreign policy is anywhere near what it needs to be. It's bad.
So what is the effect? That's my concern. Is what is the effect? Because we got some domestic policies also. What's going on with the migrant children and all that whole thing. That's just that onion is being, unpeeled now. So we've got some train wrecks. We've got some successes. How does that match up? Because what I've learned in the big scheme of things is if you got 10 dots out there, and there's 5 bad and 5 good, there's a reason for it. If there's 3 great and 7 okay, there's a reason for all that. So how do you
then it's a continuum. Let me do this because we need to get back to C-Stack and the others. Okay, that's the question you're asking. You started me a softball actually. Do softball on the weekend. If you are Republican or Democrat, if you're a conservative or liberal, my general rule of thumb is you line up, like you said, the dots. 3 good, 7 bad, this way or that, doesn't matter. It's you lay down your list. These are good things that so-and-so has done, a president or a party or a Congress or whatever. These are bad things that they have done. Where on a continuum do these good things fit for me? Where on a bad thing on a continuum do these things fit for me? And then you make your choice. That's really, that's about as straight and even as a breakdown as you're going to get in terms of being honest about politics. It's how it affects you.
So think about what
I don't go with that method, by the way. You do know I don't.
But think about what we just talked about with the difference between the millennials and then our generation and the baby boomers.
Good point, because they see it differently.
How we ascribe leadership to an individual. I don't always agree with that. And yeah, the president, number 45, is the head of our country right now, but he has the responsibility for all of the stuff that's going on.
Correct.
Whether it be foreign policy and the snafus that are going on there, domestic policy, the successes with the economy, he's accountable for all of that. What's going on with your team? He doesn't even have a full cabinet right now.
I know.
How can you be a good leader and you don't have a full?
I'm playing the right side today, a little more right side. I've thought about that. Man, we're not getting to our main topic. But that's all right. That's all right. It's politics.
But I think we do. When you start talking about all of the issues and all of the ideologies,
it is affect. I know what you're saying. On a mass scale, it does affect.
Right.
Because when you prism that stuff, right, then it all comes out. Here it goes. So, it's different. I try as hard as I can, and I think my audience will agree that I never get personal with the president or any politician. I've done a hell of a job of that. Darren, it is not easy. It is not easy, okay? Because I have hard beliefs too, believe it or not. I have my opinions. But I do believe within the context of our show, what you and I are doing right now, we have an obligation and responsibility to be fair, open, and honest. So I begin with that. I'm not avoiding the question. I'm giving you the lay down for how I get to that question. The lay down is this. That's my method. That's how I believe we need to be as a country because it's not being done right now. I watch CNN, I watch MSNBC, I watch Fox, I watch Sky, I watch BBC News. Those are the outlets that I watch. And you clearly get a preference one way or the other. The English channels, not so much. they're not a big fan of our president, but when they're
Nobody in the world is a fan of our president.
Well, there are some. I'll be the right.
Are you?
Hey, if you're Saudi Arabia, you're loving our president.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
If you're North Korea, if you're some of the others, you're loving our president.
You're right.
But here's the thing. I'm trying to lay this down so that my audience gets the landscape of it. I'm fair, and I have never not been fair. I never get personal. I've never taken a personal shot at the president, even though he has done personal things that disgust me or that I cannot be okay with. But I've never said them on air. I don't take shots in personally. I talk about policy and issue. I give credit where it's due on his end, and I take shots where I think it's due. Right now, you can say generally on the economy, the guy deserves credit. Okay, he deserves credit on top of what he did after Obama was in office. I will say that.
But okay, so when you say that, what was done?
It's a catch-22 where if he's in office, you can't not give him credit for job increase. Because that's the biggest thing, the job increase.
So is it truly job increase or is it manipulation of the market?
It's both.
Manipulation of the system.
It's both. But here's the thing. If a president manipulates the economy, and manipulation is not always bad, by the way.
Agreed.
Okay. So if a president, and I'm saying generically, this isn't Donald Trump or any president, but if a president manipulates the economy and it benefits the whole, and I know what you're going to think immediately, but stay with me for a second. If it benefits the whole and it moves the country forward in terms of joblessness, it moves the country in terms of optimism. That was a quote that he laid out on his interview with Chuck Todd this weekend that I listened to. He does get credit because the optimism is high, and that's a 50+%.
What about the skepticism? Because the last time we were in this position,
well,
it was followed by a crash.
Generally, and I'm going to say it. Well, if that happens, then it happens. Then we got to give him credit for that too, good or bad. My point, though, for right now, the percentage of America that believes in optimism in terms of the economy is plus 50-something, 58, 59%. So he does get credit for that. Where I'm most critical, and I'll just lay it out on the table for you, I've never said I'm an expert economist. I don't think I've ever said.
I'm not.
Okay, you see what I mean?
Right.
So I'm not trying to skewer somebody and trying to be an expert on all items or all issues. What I will do, and I think in my case, and like some of my audience may not like it sometimes, but I think they all know, even the people that love Donald Trump the most in my group, in my audience, they have all told me the same thing, that I am not personal, I don't get petty. Even when he does, I don't do petty. And I don't take him to task on things that I think are petty. But I will openly question his foreign policy issues because that's my wheelhouse.
Foreign policy is going to impact our economy in some way.
And you're absolutely correct.
And how? I don't know, but it's going to have an effect on our economy.
Okay, so it's not just, so foreign policy isn't just,
the tariffs.
So watch this. Yeah, exactly, that's where you're going.
Those type of things.
Foreign policy, ladies and gentlemen, it isn't just about my United States Army and I'll go whoop your ass. Okay, we're not on radio, so there's the deal. You got me on record.
Trade,
okay, it's not just I got a powerful army and I'll go kick your ass because you're not doing what I want you to do. Okay, because that's a bully. All right, and I'm not a bully. I don't know about you. I know I grew up a certain way and I got bullied because I was scrawny and little.
I don't have that problem.
Now you probably didn't. Okay, but let's just say nowadays those same people that bullied me back then, one thing twice, and again, it's a different world now. I did a lot of training in the Army other than the usual. Let's just say I'm well equipped hand to hand now. So anyway, point being is this. On foreign policy, it has been a joke. And I'll say it and I'll tell you why. When he got rid of, and you can say, oh, they resigned, whatever. When he got rid of Mattis, and he got rid of Kelly, we got rid of McMaster, they're all gone. Those dudes, I was like, okay, he's the president. I got some questions about him, but he's got some damn good people around him. And I was optimistic. Those guys are all gone. And there's a bunch of damn yahoos around him now. And that's a problem because, to your point, and I'm going to get back to your point, the foreign policy that we lay down right now, this mess of a foreign policy that we have, is ultimately going to affect us domestically. Tariffs, not just the tariff trade war with China currently, because farmers in the Midwest are hurting right now. Interesting side note, I would wonder how much it's hurting our farmers.
It is. Remember with the tariffs with the Chinese, with the soybeans, and there was another crop that was affected.
You weren't here for that one. So I pointed out that like the day after all this stuff went down weeks ago, meaning the trade war with China, Putin.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat it?
Siri didn't quite catch that. Siri didn't quite catch. Okay, so the day after we began that, it was a day or two after, I can't remember the exact date. I have it on my Facebook page. Putin comes on air, on television radio, and says that Russia will now help China with soybeans and poultry products and farm products. And I said to myself, it was Barzini all along. You ever watch The Godfather? You don't know it that well. You gotta go watch The Godfather. What the hell's wrong with you, man?
Hey, man, I'm telling you, I can't get into
my
that.
point is, like,
I can't get into Godfather.
I'm all into it because, like, I grew up around that. I won't even tell you too much, but I grew up around that mentality. So it was Barzini all along. This is what I mean. There are things being done right now on a global scale, and for the first time in my life, for the first time in the history of our country, I have to openly acknowledge, and we can have this debate, we can have this argument with anybody, that we are not the prime movers in what's going on the world stage right now. We are not dictating the pace of actions and activities throughout the world.
So think about...
We are being done to, and we are reacting. That's a problem.
So think about this in a holistic picture. You're saying that we as a country, the United States of America, is not the player, is not the mover.
We are not dictating the actions.
On a world global scale.
We're not, here, I'm going to tell you
internally, what's going on here? We got change.
We're not Spock with the three-dimensional chessboard.
Right.
We're not Spock.
Right. But domestically, think about what's going on domestically also. We talked about a little bit with the millennials and what's going on with the millennials, people of color and the changes going on with that, the women and what they're doing with the political offices thing. So domestically, internally, we're also going through a change. So think about that. Globally, the United States, which is seen as a white male, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, I don't know what the right term would be, but that's what we're seeing internationally. Okay. Now internally,
you're talking about the view,
the way people view us. They don't see us as a color. Okay. They don't see us as a nation of color.
The external viewed back.
Right. It's basically white.
Well, at
male,
least in terms of leadership, yes.
In terms of leadership. So think about that also. Foreign across the world, it's changing. Domestically, we're changing. There's more people of color that are in elected officials. There are more women than there's ever been in elected officials.
I stay with women. Got number one for women.
We have one of our front runners on the Democratic side is openly LGBT. So think about it. We've got our first Muslims. LGBTQIA, LGBTQIA+.
LGBTQIA+. Plus. I still don't know that.
We have our first nationally elected Muslim people. Representatives, the two representatives that we got, Oman and Rashida and
Tlaib.
So we think about all the changes that the United States is going through. You know, and we do not do change well.
We don't. I'll throw you an extra one in there because in that group because it is significant, at least to me. But I think it's going to be significant. It's like taking a pill and you get the results later. You have 4 vets now on the Democratic side in the race.
Yeah.
4 vets. I don't think. I hate having to say it because I'm a damn soldier. But the 4 of them don't have a chance to win it.
And the best opposition on the Republican side is also a veteran, if I'm not mistaken, as well. The representative who spoke out, who is in favor of impeaching.
Amash? Is he a vet?
I believe he is.
Are you sure?
I'm not positive.
I got to double check. You're talking about Justin Amash.
Amash, right.
I did a piece on him on show.
Take a look at that because I believe he's got a military background as well.
Okay, he may. I don't know. But my sidebar to now was that Amash is the truest conservative of the entire damn party. You know, at least the Republican side. And not a coincidence, he's a libertarian. He's more lib.
He's a libertarian, right.
So that's why it's crazy. I'm finding that my base is like centrist Democrats and Republicans and far, far right Republicans, libertarians. They're the ones that agree with me the most because it's not about party. It's about your damn country. And they don't. Okay, so get that if we can, but we got to get into this mess here. We haven't done. Okay, so we had 2 items off this last week coming into this weekend, and that will be center stage and will be an issue going into the debates on Wednesday and Thursday. We had 2 separate items, okay? And it ultimately ends up being what Darren and I are talking about, by the way. We're talking about African Americans, we're talking about a black vote, we're talking about the country and where it's going. That's the general topic, right, that we're discussing. But I'm interested to see, and I would love to pencil out in advance, if I can get my SuperMex crystal ball to operate properly right now. It's being a little hazy with me. It's not quite operating for me. Maybe I'm not, enough. Maybe I'm not focused right now. I've got my mind on other things. But we had two instances. Okay, so we had the Biden and the Booker. I won't call it a dust-up. It was a conversation, and it was a difference in opinion. And by the way, I mean, we're just talking about differences in opinion. They're free to lay on it. They're not getting personal. That I do like. I don't like personal. SuperMex Nation. I think some of you guys know that. By the way, we've lost a few members. We're still growing, but we've slowed a little bit because you do know that I don't like the personal. You don't get to take shots at the other side just because. If you start the conversation with an insult, then where's the intellectual component to that? There is none. That's not SuperMex Nation, this show or the group. So,
can I correct the record?
Go ahead.
Justin Amash is not military. He is he's a gentleman who's taking on a fight with military spending.
I would have known that.
That's what it was.
What the connection that's why I halted myself. I would have known.
He is not.
If he were a
veteran,
if he were a vet, yeah, I would know. I guess
with the military spending.
Yeah, I would know if he is a vet because I know all of them that are vets. As I know, so we got 4 in the race. Okay, so the situation with Booker and Biden, we're going to discuss a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the Buttigieg issue because all of this has to do with the black vote, which is what we started the conversation with the specific black vote, the African American female vote, that is rock solid, and usually rock solid with Democrats. And I'm going to say this. Not just importance for the primary, right, in deciding who the Democratic nominee is, but rock solid in terms of if it turns out hard, and I'll say it, if it turns out hard in the general election, then the president's in trouble.
Yeah.
Because, and I think I said this, because the last time Crow was on the show, he kept telling me after we were off air, oh, well, Trump has a low approval, but that's happened before and presidents win. I said, I agree. I said, but I know he can lose too. And he goes, well, how? I said, real simple. And watch this. If everybody the president has insulted or taken a shot at, if they all come out and vote, ladies and gentlemen, the president's done.
By the way, the 2018 numbers were up from 2016. 2016 election, when you look at the overall numbers, were down from the eligible voters. They went back up in 18, and they significantly went up with African American, LGBT community, millennials.
Plus.
Plus.
Hey, I'm busting you because you're the one that told me about that, by the way.
All of those.
You told me about that stuff.
All of those communities that you're talking about right now, those that have been insulted and put on blast by our now current president, their numbers increased 2016 to 2018.
So I think it's a turnout thing, right? Because somebody said, well, if the president turns out his base, it's going to be strong. His base always turns out. Right. His base doesn't turn out. The hardcore, really conservative Republican always turns out. You're going to get them anyway. But the rule is, and I'm going to stop, but the rule is this. If Democrats don't get all of their people to show up, they lose. Right. If they get all their people to show up, they win. Because the Republican base is solid.
The way they're going to get them to turn out is not by focusing on getting rid of Donald Trump. That's not going to get people to come out. And that's evidenced by what happened in 2016 with Hillary Clinton.
It is, but I'm a little skeptical. Not skeptical about that, but
I think that the strength of these numbers that I laugh about, these 25 candidates, is exactly what you said, is that it gives us a wide
choice.
Not even so much of choice of the individual. I'm talking about that they basically have covered the gamut of all of those issues that are affecting us.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so I thought when you said choice, I thought you were talking about choice of the individuals. I'm talking about
that too.
I'm talking about the thought process.
Hey, that too.
They're talking about
25 individuals
from a guaranteed income to totally eradicating student debt.
No, I know.
To getting out of fossil fuels.
No, so what I mean is,
it's all.
Okay, you're right. I'm with you, but I'm going to add to it. Yes, it's choice not just in candidate, but it's choice in smorgasbord and idea. Because I'm going to tell you this. Okay, so Joe C. Stack, for those of you guys that don't know, he just got in yesterday night. Okay, so Joe C. Stack, retired Rear Admiral. He's a Democrat, but he's a vet. People don't know this, but veterans are beginning to register on the Democratic side in larger numbers.
I didn't know that.
Trust me, it's a shift. It's a shift in foreign policy. It's a shift in foreign policy. Now we can get into that entirely different show.
Let me ask you this question. One of the other things I've found out also is that a lot of folks who are changing their political party from Republican are not necessarily going into becoming Democrats.
No, a lot of them are doing
going
independent.
or what's called decline to state.
DTS or independent.
Yeah.
A lot of
And
them
so-
are. A lot of them are. But my point is, you know, so you're right about that. There are Republicans that are having a hard time with the foreign policy. A lot of my friends are.
I
Okay,
understand why.
I'm dead serious. I mean, my really, really hard right friends having major issues with foreign policy. Major. And so some of them have told me explicitly that they will never vote for a Democrat, but they probably won't vote for the president either. They just may not vote at all.
Yeah, right.
Or they may actively think about a third party or a separate choice.
But that's what happens on our side of the ledger. That's what Democrats have been doing. You know, I know Democrats have been doing that for the last 10 to 12
so,
years.
You know, you're right.
And for
on
now,
the
Republicans
Democratic
to get
side,
on that side,
well,
that
that's different.
tells you that.
Okay, it does change.
Yeah.
Okay, because their base is the Republican base is always more solid. It's much more. It could be relied on.
That's interesting.
No, it is. So, but my point is, like, so with Joe Stack, he's a new not Republican. He's a new Democrat, but he's a retired rear admiral, and he's a military man. I can tell you that. So, to your choice select point that we're talking about right now, not just individuals, but on issues and ideas, I definitely trust Joe Stack and Seth Moulton, and probably Tulsi Gabbard, and maybe even Buttigieg, when it comes to discussing foreign policy issues. I'd love to see them on a debate stage with the president, I guess is my point. Because they'll eat him alive.
I've never heard the new guy, but Gabbard, Buttigieg.
And you know nothing about Moulton. That's
and
my
Moulton
dog,
is the
man.
other one I haven't seen also. But the two of them
4
also
terms.
talk about the necessity of war.
I know.
War is
know.
not something
I know.
that you replace foreign policy with. War is something, it's the last result.
When all other options have
Right,
failed.
when all of the options have failed.
So you know, so that you never, and you probably do know this about me already, but you do know that I never raised my hand in anger.
I did not
I'll
know
tell
that.
you that right now.
Did not know that.
I haven't raised my hand in anger since I was 19,
Okay.
ever. Okay, my point to a good soldier, a good military person, man or woman, is we don't get angry and we don't let emotions rule our decisions. We make decisions based on what's best for everybody, not ourselves. And we don't rush into war like a lot of people think that we'd love to. You think we love to go fight? We fight because we're preventing further problem. That's the only thing. So my point to all this thing, like especially, and I don't want to talk about the Iran, because I'm going to do a show on just that, and I'm going to eat this thing up. I'm going to eat this alive. But vets generally, we're not out there picking fights and trying to start wars.
Yeah.
Vets generally don't. Not a coincidence. Bolton is not a vet. He's some guy who has this concept or idea of how he's going to rule the world and how the United States is going to do this. You know what? I'll go on air right now and say it. I actually have an idea, a pretty damn good one, if I do say so myself, on how the United States can rule the world. Watch that. How the United States can rule the world in concept and ideology, as opposed to just beating the hell out of everybody. We can do that.
Because eventually even a bully gets beat. You know, bully's going to lose at some point in time.
A bully always is. I can't help
Some
it.
point- some point in time,
You're laying me up.
bullies-
You're laying me up with this because I don't think I've ever said this to you, but I may have said this on air one time. I was in, I think, 5th grade. It was the year before my pop died. I was spending the year with my grandparents in Southern Cal, and I would come home from school. And this is a true story. I'd come home from school, and I'd get my ass kicked every day in the alley that I had to go through to get to my house, to get home. To go around, to go separate from that alley would have passed me through somebody else's body, and I probably would have got killed instead of kicked. And it would have taken me like another half hour to 20, 30 minutes on top of that. Okay? So I had to go through this alley, and this guy who was in middle school, he was like an 8th grader.
Okay.
And I was in elementary. And I was scrawny to begin with, by the way. I was little. This guy used to kick my ass every day, like clockwork. No matter what I did, I would try to and I'd try to sprint and run, but he was bigger, faster, and he always caught me. He'd kick my ass. He'd take whatever money I had. This isn't even funny. This is serious stuff, right? He'd kick my ass every day. So toward the end of the year, and this is crazy what adults know, right? My grandfather knew something was up. You know, he's an old World War II vet. My grandfather's a World War II vet. I got my ass kicked every day. And toward the end of the school year, it was like a week or two left. And this time I came home and he almost knocked the tooth out and had a serious black eye. Normally, he just punched me in the body in the right spot so that you couldn't really tell. You know how to whoop somebody's ass without leaving marks? That's how you know you're good. So this time he busted me up pretty good, and I had a good shiner, and I had almost tooth almost out entirely. And my grandfather asked, "Sabes que mijo?" And he started talking to me in Spanish. We mixed Spanish and English. We spoke both. And he was asking me what, he goes, he knows that, he just told me flat out, he knows that there's something going on, that there's been trouble. He wanted to know if I was starting trouble. Because he said, if you're starting trouble, si usted tu falta, he would have told me, he goes, then it's your damn fault and you're going to get your ass whooped. But he asked me, he wanted the whole story, right? So I told him the story. And he didn't get angry. My point, doesn't get angry. Totally lack of emotion. He just said, okay, so this boy, and I think he kind of knew the family because we all knew each other. And he knew who the boy was. And so instead of escalating and doing crazy shit, you see how this, like, micro scale is macro. It is the world, by the way, what we deal with on a daily basis. Darren, we're all human. We have emotions. You just take a country, now they have anger and hate and love too, right? So he told me that after I explained to him everything going on, that clearly he figured out that I wasn't like picking fights. And let's just say the last day of school, from my grandfather, he took care of it. My last day of school, I went through that alley, and here comes Romero. I remember the guy's name. His name was Romero. He's about to whoop my ass. Only this time, I've got my cousin Goyo. I've got my cousin Chewy. I got my cousin Roberto. I've got a homeboy that lives, Danny, who was right down the street. He was my crime partner. There was like 5 of us, and we kicked the shit out of that guy. We beat his ass. Now I'm gonna get in trouble because I advocated violence, but I got my ass whooped every single day for a full year.
And Grandpa is the one who orchestrated.
Grandpa basically told me that it was no longer fair. 1, because he was a lot older,
right.
And 2, because that guy, he's in his world. This isn't like Japan fighting, the U.S. in World War II. The Nazis fighting the U.S. in World War II. That's a bully, which is getting to all of this, right? That's a bully. The guy kicked my ass every day for a full year. And then at the end, my cousins and some others came with me and we kicked his ass. And then I was done. It didn't matter anymore because I went back home. Matter of fact, sidebar, and I think I've said this on air, the day I came home was the day my dad died. That was the day I came home is the day my dad died. So all that stuff, there's a lot of things, I don't even think my mom even knows that. She watches this, she's going to get some.
She'll know now, right?
She's going to know now. There's a lot my mom would know that I stayed, that 1 year. But it was so I can grow up. And interesting thing, that was a part of my growing up. Why do I bring all that up? Not to give you a story like after school special, but to point out to what we were talking about earlier, bullies get their due. My fear is that we are becoming the bully.
We are.
And I don't know about you, but I don't like kicking somebody's ass simply because I can. I will kick somebody's ass if they're hurting other people, they're doing damage to my country, they're doing damage to my people, they're doing something that's wrong, evil, or they're hurting people.
And America has a history of that. A history of standing up for others,
that's the history.
Others.
That's the history I grew up on.
Yeah, but it's changed.
It's changing now, and I don't like. So when I call out, Seth Moulton, this is where he came from, right? Seth Moulton, 4-term combat veteran in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's running for president. People don't even know who the hell the guy is. Okay, he understands that concept, that America is at its best when we are doing what is right, on principle, on rule of law, on standing up for the right things and defending the defenseless. You're like, wow, we're not supposed to be doing that. Yes, when we're at our best, we do that. You know why? Because those defenseless come back. They believe in us. They love us. They give to us. They help us. They stand with us.
They become part of your familia.
They become, there you go, right? That's my primo right there. That's my primo over there. That's my primo over there.
No blood, similar blood in nobody's bodies, but it's because of ideologies and connectivities. It's because of the similar interest that you have. It's because when I was hurting and I was in need, you came and helped me and assisted. This is how I'm going to give you.
I'm going to say that's when America is at its best. America is not, and I disagree somewhat with people on my right that like they want to be entirely isolationist, and I'm like, isolationism doesn't work long term. Okay, I understand the concept of let's not waste money in other countries that are potentially harmful to us. And here's the thing: nobody's saying jack. We did this show on air one time with Crow. Nobody's saying anything about the millions of dollars we've given to Saudi Arabia or the technology and weapons technology that we're giving to Saudi Arabia and the nuclear capability we're giving to Saudi Arabia. Nobody's saying jack about that, but they complain about other countries that we're giving money to.
And where was the majority of The
9/11 attackers were from Saudi Arabia. They were Saudi Arabian nationals. Right. Well, that's another time, but we're wrapping up here. But we didn't. Let's do that. Maybe a few minutes. Okay. So I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's dust the Booker and the Biden thing. I think the Buttigieg thing is more significant. Okay. So Pete Buttigieg is the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and over this past week, going back to last week, in his city, there was a white man or a white officer that killed a black young guy. Okay, all too familiar story. I'm not making it a racial thing, but it is a fact that black folk get shot by officers in larger numbers than any other subgroup, even more than Mexican Americans. Okay, I think it's the most significant, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's African Americans, young males.
By percentage of population.
It
definitely is
by percentage.
And
that's what I'm talking about. By percentage of population, African American young males get whacked out by not just other gangs, but law enforcement and authority more than any other subgroup in the country.
Correct.
So Pete Buttigieg has already had issue with relating or being a part of African Americans in the black community, and then this happened. And we may not be totally 100% you and I here, but I actually think that might be it for him. Now it does. Now hold on, let me finish. It doesn't mean he's done. Like with the race, I think he'll go a long way. I think he'll get votes. I think he'll get electors, for the electoral, not
I'm
electoral.
interested to see how he responds to it because this is still pretty fresh. And like I said, I did not take a look at it until just hour ago or so.
It is, but I saw it and he looked like he was like.
But I really do, after actually seeing him live and watch the way that he responded to the questions when he did the town hall here, I saw concern in his face.
Which is what we agree on.
It's not concern about, oh shit, I'm not going to be president. It's about, hey, what can I do? How can I positively impact
Okay, so that's
this?
what you and I agreed on, like right before we started the show.
Yeah.
We agreed on that look that I saw on his face wasn't like, oh shit, how is this going to affect my poll number?
Right.
It was a look of, oh shit, I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't get this. I mean, I know
Because
I
he
need to do
can't.
something.
Because he can't.
But he's
not a white guy getting whacked out by black officers.
But there are some things that he can't. Here's one thing he can do is that because the officer that was involved in the shooting had a body cam on that wasn't
turned on.
It wasn't turned on.
So I'm wondering if the guy turned it off.
It doesn't matter. If that police department has a policy that when you got a body cam on that it is supposed to be on.
In which case you're not doing your job.
Then there is something immediately that he can do. Terminate that officer. Not because he killed an unarmed black man, but because he did not follow your city's policies.
Yeah.
If you are not,
that's actually simpler. That's an easier line of rationale.
And I may not have it all. I may not have all the details and things, but
let's do that first. We both don't know because it's not done.
Right.
Okay. We both don't know entirely. But at least within terms of Buttigieg, I'm going to say it again.
To see what his response is.
Okay. You're right. So we're going to differ a little bit here. We agree that I'm telling you, I looked at his face. I've seen his face, as they're doing these things in that town hall.
He was concerned.
He is concerned. He stressed the hell out like, I can't understand this. What the hell I do? And then I found out, I saw in a piece that he called like Reverend Al Sharpton. He called some other black leaders in the black community and actually asked them like, hey, what the hell can I do? I don't get it. I'm okay with that. But I'm going to say it.
But it still requires some type of response.
It does. Okay, so I'm going to say it again. His response is probably going to be measured. It's probably going to be spot on because the guy's smart and he can speak. I will say that. He is smart and he can speak. But I'm going to tell you this. When I saw it and I saw the weekend and I saw the development of it, in the backdrop of the Biden-Booker thing, Pete Buttigieg has already had issue with empathizing and bringing the black African-American vote to him. I don't see him picking that vote up, not even withstanding this particular incident.
But I'm not sure he had it.
He never did.
Before.
No, he didn't. He didn't. But what we're talking about, the beginning of the genesis of the show was the African-American, particularly female vote, is going to be significant. And if you saw that clip, think about that clip.
Right,
Who were the ones going? It was ladies.
Yeah.
Black ladies were ripping him up. So
think about it. If you didn't have that Buttigieg, I don't think he had the African-American woman female vote in the first place.
To begin with. You're correct.
So if he screws it up and he doesn't get it, he hasn't lost anything. But if he takes the appropriate response, even if it's measured, even if it's just basically totally on policy, if he takes the appropriate response, maybe he picks up some.
I don't think so.
I mean, maybe not, but at
don't
least
think
I'm
so.
hoping that if he's going to turn, it's way different than Uncle Joe.
I just think, you're probably right there, but I just think that when the time comes, presented with options, and I'm black, right? I'm an expert on the black community, right? But I'm telling you, after what I saw, the way I saw it, I think with presented with options, African American ladies, they're going to choose a different person than Buttigieg as option.
Who are they going to choose?
Well, you still okay. So you have the obvious ones. Okay,
Harris.
Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are African American in the race.
Black women are not supporting Cory Booker.
Not?
No.
Really?
Not in a large number.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
Not
so
in a large
Kamala
number.
Harris.
I don't believe Cory Booker is going to make it out of July
I don't think so either.
because he's just not getting the traction.
I'm going to tell you what.
And I think that's part of the reason why he is the mouthpiece with this Joe Biden deal.
But you know what happens with the mouthpiece, right?
Right.
They don't last.
Right.
You're the one over the berm. You get shot.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. I'm kind of with you there. I don't think Booker. I know Booker's not going to get the nomination.
No,
okay, and I don't think he may be there long enough, at least in his calculation, to be relevant going forward in future elections.
You heard
sure.
you heard his response to when he was asking if he could be on a ticket with Biden. His response was, "I don't think that the Democratic ticket should have two males on it."
Correct.
So think about it.
No, I did see that.
So if it's one
And
of
I
the
agree with him.
males,
I agree with him.
he wouldn't be the VP.
Oh, I wasn't talking about that.
If
I'm
it's-
talking
if
about
it's the-
future runs,
well,
either for Senate or
yeah.
president.
Well, he's already a senator.
No, I know that.
But I mean,
he's got. My
maintaining-
point is, he's got re-election.
Right.
He's got potential presidency.
I think
So
he'll be
that's what it is.
okay in New Jersey, but he could burn some bridges though if he keeps attacking Joe Biden.
That's it exactly.
It could
Okay,
come
so
back to
back
Biden.
to your point, which was, with Booker, where does an African American vote go? Again, you're more expert than I am for obvious reasons, but I don't think it goes to Buttigieg. I think there are going to be other options besides Buttigieg.
But I
listen,
still think that he could squeak in and get some with his response to this issue.
No, we're fighting here.
Okay.
Here's why. Here's why I tell you.
Why does an African American woman in Indiana have to vote for? What reason does she have to vote for Kamala Harris?
She's black.
Right. So if there's somebody that they can connect to, have a relationship with, that doesn't even look like them, but at least they have some evidence that they can say, okay, this dude responded in this way, I'm going to give him my vote.
I understand that rationale, but I'm trumping that.
Okay.
Pun intended. Pun intended. Pun intended. I'm going to tell you why. Because there's another aspect to, like you brought up Kamala Harris. There's another aspect. I said she's black. Correct. She's also a female.
Correct.
My assertion, I think that African American females may gravitate toward another female. They may go with the Warren or somebody else before they go with the Buttigieg.
I can tell you right now, just in my own
You see my point?
my own little thumb, this is not official, this is Darren Miller's little heat check. The people who are being supported, now remember also I'm in California. So
we are
Harris,
different. I mean, we do see things different.
Not Biden, but Bernie. So Harris, Bernie, and the other lady, Warren. Those are the ones that are getting the traction, at least in the conversations that I'm having.
So that's what I'm telling you. I think, and again, I'm not an expert, but I do believe that an African American female presented with a choice of, say others drop out, right? Say Kamala Harris is out of the race. Say Cory Booker's out of the race. There's no black, at least down the road. Because Buttigieg, by the way.
Say, for my take would be than Bernie. That benefits Bernie.
Okay. You're not totally disagreeing with you, but I believe in, because they're going to be there till the end. Bernie's going to be there till the end. Warren's going to be there till the end. I think that females.
Kamala Harris going to be there till the end. The only reason why she would get out is after we have our Super Tuesday.
The problem is there's going to be a lot of them till the end.
I really.
Well, what's the end? What's the end? You're talking about
by the end of
convention.
July, the field will be. Yeah, the convention is in August. I believe it's August.
Who do you see getting to the convention? The obvious ones: Biden, Bernie. Bernie made it to the convention before. I think he'll be there again.
Biden, Bernie, Warren, Harris. Right now, let's say Buttigieg.
They have money. You have to have money to make it that far.
I think it's going to be those five.
It might be
one
those
of the
five.
other things that's going to happen is
you have that five, and then it's a drop off.
And then there's a big push right now inside of the Democratic Party is that, hey, All of you guys are quality. All 24 of you before this last guy got in. All 24 of you are quality. But there's only really viably 7 of you that possibly have an opportunity to be our next president.
Correct.
We need to have some of the rest of you get out of this and run for Senate. That's what we're looking for. Some of you need to hold serve with your Senate seats that you got going on right now.
I know.
And so how does that whole dynamic play out?
So watch this.
That's why July is going to be interesting.
We'll wrap up this show with this, right? Selflessness as opposed to selfishness. Right. How many of those potential senators or that are already in the Senate, but also potential senators that would get out for the good of the Democratic Party?
Cory Booker will, because
he's not going to last. You're right about that. I think you're absolutely right about.
Who are the other senators?
He's not going to make it.
Who are the other senators?
Who said this? Okay, so I watched the show on the week. I watched a lot on Sunday because there's a lot of shows on Sunday. But the thing was, they asked Booker, or they said
they want Beto to run for Senate in Texas.
Yeah. What was
they want? Is it Georgia? Is one of the guys? He's a
no. I know who you're thinking about. It's either like
he's in the South though.
No, you're talking about Jay Inslee. No, Bullock is in Montana.
He's in Virginia. Oh yeah, the Montana guy.
Bullock.
They're talking about him.
I like that
him
dude.
running for the Senate in Montana.
That dude's pretty level-headed.
But the other one was either Virginia, Georgia.
There's another in the South.
There was one of those in the South.
There's so many it's hard to
remember.
But here's what I was going to tell you about the Booker thing. That the comment was, and it was simple, it was a one-liner. The greatest amount of traction that Cory Booker has gotten has been this last week. Yeah. And if that's the greatest amount of traction you've got,
it's not sustainable.
Then you're dust.
Yeah, you're dust.
Because you're the guy over the trench first. Mm-hmm. That means you're dust. So I'm just saying, I'm going to go on air and say, it's like, I don't think Buttigieg is going to win the nomination.
I don't either.
If it's based on,
I think he's in for the long haul, though.
No, I'm not going to say that. No,
he'll be one of the last. If he doesn't make it a convention, he'll be one of the last guys.
And because now he has money, he has money.
Right.
He's fundraised well since the first town hall he did, when that's where he got all the traction from. Okay, so based on that initial, he's probably going to be there close to the end, all the way to the end. But I can't see an African American female, and again, I'm not trying to be an expert on something you should be, not me. But I can't see. I cannot see an African American female voting for him over someone, and I'm not even talking about Booker and Kamala. All right, I'm talking about I can't see an African American female voting for Buttigieg over somebody like Warren or even Biden or Bernie.
I see. I can see it over Biden, not Bernie necessarily, and not Warren. I agree, but Biden I can. In
which case, there's too many. I just don't get it. He's not going to get it. Right. Okay, so we ended up kind of talking about the bees, right? We talked about the black vote. I think we hopefully educated you guys a little bit more on the background and the base to what the African American vote. I use the term, interchangeably, black, African American. If I get in trouble, I get in trouble. If you think I'm that, then by all means attack me. But I think that it is going to be a significant vote, at least on the Democratic side in terms of the presidential primary. But I do think, because I've said this to my friends that are further right before, that are hard for Trump and that will vote for Trump no matter what. Remember on here, I've never tried to change your vote. I ask you to vote your conscience. I've always said that to you, and I'm not going to change anything now. A little too late in the game for me. But I do believe that going down this road here, that the African American female vote as a subgroup is really, really solid. And as Darren pointed out, it is a powerful unilateral vote once it's all together. And I have said that if the president has a perfect storm happen to him, not the other way around, I'll go on air and I'm going to say this. There is a possibility that he gets beat pretty good. People haven't thought about that. They're just thinking because he's an incumbent. He can lose bad if you have all these things happen in sequence and order. One of them is a female black vote going monolithically one way on a Democratic side. And if all the subgroups that the president has insulted or taken shots at, listen, you don't have to like it or love it, but you guys all do know he does it. I mean, let's be straight here. This is SuperMex Nation. This isn't Lying Nation. This is a fact. He insults people, a lot of them. Hell, here's an easy one. if all women went against him, he's dust. Seriously. You know, he's got a lot of, there are females that vote for him, but he's got a lot of females that will not vote for him. There are minorities that vote for him, but there are far more minorities that vote against him. So he's got to be careful. If he's not, and he gets a perfect storm of all minorities and a load of women that vote against him, and I'm not even saying for some arbitrary, not even known Democratic person yet, if they just vote against the president, he can lose. It's that simple. That's just a simple analysis. So anyway, so the debates are Wednesday and Thursday. I will be back on air on the Wednesday. I got to figure out when the time is because I kind of want to watch it.
6 to 8.
I know. I want to watch it and then maybe do it, but I don't know when either way, I'll inform you guys on the Nation and on SuperMex International and let you know what we do for a debate night thing, whatever the hell it is. Okay? So I hope that's informed you a little bit and got you a little more square. And I'm looking forward to having some more female voices on air with me to help me kind of unpack all this stuff. Because we're talking about females like we're experts. I don't know about you, but I'm not an expert.
Not an expert.
By far, no.
I just my viewpoint.
Yeah, all you can do is speculate, and hopefully you're maybe right, one or the other. But anyway, so thank you, homeboy. It's good to see you again. You're going to be gone now a couple weeks, right?
Yep.
All right, so you'll be gone 2 weeks?
Australia.
Man, I got to tell you, I got to live here. I want it. When I grow up, I want to be like Brother Miller.
You'd be fighting with no hands.
I'm going to be squabbling right here. I'm going to get some squabbles on. I get my squabble on. All right, nothing but love for you. We'll be back on Wednesday, and hopefully by Friday we'll have some female voices on the show to add some variety, flavor, depth, and some beauty. Nothing wrong with that, right? That's always a good thing. But other than that, hope you had a great weekend. Thank you for being here. You know the Tag That Track schedule. And we will see you on Wednesday. Thank you very much.
Night.